Y'all, I was gonna get brave and say this is the last installment of this cringe fest, but it depends on if I reject the book or not. My body might just start rejecting it because it's that over the top ridiculous. So let's get into it today. Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. Sofa's back here. Roscoe's right there. He's giving his left foot a bath. Isn't that adorable? And my name is Paul. Today, we're continuing on the cringe binge, y'all. Like I said in the beginning, I was like, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna be like, this is the last installment, we're knocking it out. But I was like, Paul, you might be on the floor snoozing. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So we're gonna see. This is here. We're at page 68. Please hold. 117 pages. And y'all, the other installments I had to do, they're like an hour and a half. Y'all, it's not that many pages, okay? It's not. So we're gonna see, okay? So that being said, for the Cringe Binge for the Cringe Binge Book Club, I guess that y'all have named it now, which I absolutely love. We're running with it. I just read, I talk about this and make commentary along the way. So that's what we'll be doing. We're picking up at chapter 7, Motives. Okay, here we go. Motives are why you do what you do. They are the emotional and spiritual belief system driving your thoughts, feelings, and actions into either truth or distortion. At the core of this belief system is either the willingness, humility, to be 100% responsible for yourself, or the willingness, lack of humility, to be responsible for yourself. You must be willing to explore your motives, especially the ugly, distorted ones you don't want to acknowledge or want to avoid. Be willing to recognize your distortion so you can be conscious and responsible for them. Once you know what is motivating you, you can change your motives so they are founded in truth. You are always responsible for your motives. Unless you ask yourself the whys behind your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, you will default into unawareness of your motives and be vulnerable to distortion. Again, y'all, with the distortion, let's imagine I pick up the damn examples, right? I mean, and so many of y'all have commented on how it's like she thinks we're completely stupid, so she gives us these examples, and I 100% agree with you. Okay, so let's imagine I pick up a nail in my car's tire. I take my car to a particular tire shop because I trust the technician there. I tell him I need my tire repaired and I need to be on the road again by 7 p.m. As he works, he asks me repeatedly, how much time do we have? In this example, the repairman's motive is not to get the job done by 7. That is the outcome. His motive is the underlying energy of why he wants that outcome. His motive could be to make sure he makes the customer happy so that he won't get yelled at. Or his motive could be perfectionism, to finish the job by 7 p.m. to prove that he is the best. Or his motive could be in truth. He could be motivated by the energy of empathy. In this case, his repeated question, how much time do we have, would be motivated by an energy of connection of respect, empathy, honor, and understanding for the other person, and a genuine desire to connect. All this over, and I know it's an example, but this is what I'm talking about, where she makes something so complicated that does not need to be. And I almost think she does it for herself, because somebody in the comment section says something like about these examples that she does is almost like she doesn't even know what she's talking about, so it's like she's breaking it down for herself first and then projecting it onto us. Amen to that, because that's what this feels like, because I'm just like, yeah, girl, it's not that deep and it's not worth writing a whole paragraph over, okay? There could be many things there, but I guess there's some people who are really, like, getting into this or whatnot, like the people she's victimized and are forcing to, you know, do these things, people like Kevin, stuff like that. Let's keep going. Another way to think of motives is like a musical vibration. If you make a loud musical tone near a guitar string, the string will begin to resonate at its natural frequency without being plucked. Likewise, your experiences invite you to resonate with the energy of your motives, either distortion or truth. You have an experience and you perceive, interpret, and respond to that experience according to the tuning of your spirit. If you are full of fear, dishonesty, irresponsibility, and lack of humility, you will react in fear, dishonesty, irresponsibility, and lack of humility. This is distortion. If you are full of empathy, honesty, responsibility, and humility, you will respond with empathy, honesty, responsibility, and humility. This is truth. Your motives are present in every thought, feeling, and behavior. Motives, whether in distortion or truth, are created by you through the private internal conversations you have with yourself. These private conversations can reinforce your distorted thoughts, denial, fears, control, entitlements, distractions, and pride. Or they can reinforce your ability to validate, hold boundaries, be responsible, honest, open, curious, and willing to connect. You choose what motivates you. Experiences, both comfortable and uncomfortable, will continue to come your way, and you will respond to them according to the underlying belief system that you are most familiar with, either truth or distortion. The gift of choice constantly invites you to choose. You are never locked into either mindset, distortion or truth. Therefore, you may choose to engage either distortion or truth whenever you desire. However, you cannot control the outcomes that follow the choices you make. Outcomes are set. If you choose motives and truth, you will experience peace. If you choose motives and distortion, you will experience optimal pain. You get to choose. So then it makes you wonder, like, what in God's name was her underlying stuff? I mean, you see what she was doing. Now, I know that she will excuse it away as like she was living in truth and like the kids were in distortion and she had to do this, that, and the other, whatever. I get that. But to us casual onlookers, it's like, girl, what's going on beneath the surface? Now, in the live chat we did last night about Chad Daybell and talking about what book to do next, so many of you said Visions of Glory. So this morning at the gym, I looked into it and I was like, 100% that's what's coming down after we're finished with this, because I have a feeling, just judging from what I've seen out there, it's going to inform me more of this, whatever you want to call this, and Chad. Let's go to the next chapter. So now we're in chapter 8, Perceptions. Even before I could give language to my thoughts, I have been using my 5 senses to perceive and label life, people, and experiences. Jesus, can you imagine what her 5 senses are like? I don't want to know what that perception is. Okay, let's keep going. Because I've been engaged in this process of placing meaning onto my world since the moment I took my first breath, and will continue until I take my last, my world has incredible meaning to me. Again, I'm sorry, I have to stop. Here's the thing. I'm all for people who dig a little bit deeper. I consider myself one of those type people that doesn't just be like, oh, here's whatever in front of me. I don't question it. Like, I'm all for that. But the way she takes it to a level that I'm like, girl, you're at a 10, we need you to 5. Okay. Like, all for this right here, but you put way too much into simple stuff. Sometimes it just is what it is, right? We don't need to stop and overanalyze and overcomplicate tying our shoe. We don't need to make a whole book about it. You know what I mean? It's like, some people don't need that. Okay. Maybe she does. We don't. Okay. Let's keep going. That meaning has been manipulated and influenced by innumerable stimuli. I have established definitions, perceptions, and interpretations consciously and unconsciously for my world. Therefore, I have preset meanings and interpretations for nearly every experience in my life. I automatically relate new experiences with past ones. When I have a new experience, I have an opportunity to run the experience through my life filter to interpret it, perceive it, and place meaning on it. Now again, this whole concept she's talking about right here, let's go down to the basic thing. And think about your own experiences going through your daily life, whatever. I'll sit here and be like, Paul, you're thinking this about this because it's what you've known. It's what you've experienced in the past. So of course your brain is expecting blank out of this because it's happened every time. You know what I mean? It could even be like, well, whenever, I try and go to this kind of a function, nobody will talk to me. Well, it's only because that's your perception. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that's a weird example and I'm not trying to be like Jodi giving an example, but you get what I'm saying. So she's sitting here talking about it like, I can just fathom her like going to something like just sucking the fun out of anything, right? With trying to sit here and be like, okay, now let's stop, everybody. Now this experience, I have, these past things I can revisit and go back on. And that's what we're going to do now. And it's like, can we just get on the roller coaster? We're at the amusement park. We don't need to psychoanalyze it. We don't need to write a book about it. We don't need to talk about past experiences with it. We just need to get on the ride. For God's sakes, let's keep going. Now, for example, when I went to Guatemala, I found that it was considered endearing and highly complimentary for the people to say to me, "Tu estás muy bonita y muy gorda," meaning you're very beautiful and fat. I love that. Because as soon as she started talking like that, I was like, watch. She's going to, whatever she puts in Spanish, it's going to be like they were ripping her a new one. You know what I mean? Like, you're the devil's spawn or something like that. Since my culture does not generally associate beauty with fatness, that was definitely a new experience. She got humbled real. What she's trying to say is she got humbled real damn quick when she went there. I had to interpret it, decide how to perceive it, and place appropriate cultural meaning onto it so as not to be offended by their apparent compliments. If somebody is from there, please inform us so that we know, is this legit or not, or were people just absolutely trolling her? Because even like if she was in a scenario where people didn't speak her language of a different culture, people can sense people. You know what I mean? And they probably sense, this is the devil right here. This is the devil. We're going to pretend that it's, we're going to call her fat to her face and she can't say anything about it because we're going to pretend it's like what we do. But it could literally be part of their culture. I don't know. But she's drawn a diagram. She did a dissertation on this right here. It says perception goes to truth or distortion. Truth is open to connection, closed to fear. Distortion is open to fear and pain, closed to connection. Perception is a personal interpretation of an experience, an environment, a person or object, a situation, a place, an idea, or an ideology. Perception is the ability to have understanding or insight about self, others, and or surroundings. To perceive means to observe. To have consciousness and awareness of elements in one's environment. Perceptions are personal in that we view everything through our own unique filter. We use our senses, beliefs, and ourselves and others and values, traumas, both healed and unhealed, knowledge, understanding, ideologies, fears, entitlements, and expectations. Everything, y'all, this whole paragraph is nothing but list of things. Oh my God, okay? Everything we think, believe, or feel about ourselves and others, consciously or unconsciously, plays into the way we perceive the world and our environment. In this way, you can construct your reality. Perception is unique in that each person has their own interpretation of reality and invitation to perceive in truth or distortion. Perceptions have monumental power. The way you perceive or give meaning to your experiences, yourself, and other people is based on your core beliefs about yourself and your choice to keep or change your core beliefs. So I would have to argue then and be curious, what is her core belief about herself to see her behavior towards others, right? Everyone has the ability, if they are aware, to consciously choose how to perceive their experiences. If you are unaware of your perceptions, your brain will automatically perceive your new experiences for you, according to your core beliefs about yourself and your world. Thus, your distorted thoughts will be reinforced, and your next experience will be perceived in additional distortion. The perceptions you choose to trust and reinforce within yourself will shape your life and determine your outcomes. Here is an example, of course, we gotta have one of these. Here is an example of choosing to perceive in truth rather than distortion, and how quickly emotions and behaviors change when you perceive in truth. On a Tuesday at 11:30 a.m., I was in my office with a client. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, I'm just kidding. I was in the office with a client sitting across from me when all of a sudden 3 loud bangs sounded on my door. Bang, bang, bang. It was one of those husbands. The person looked alarmed because of the aggressive tone that resounded in the room. I asked him, "Are you expecting anyone?" Notice it's in her office and that happens. She immediately gaslights him. "Are you expecting someone?" Girl, it's them probably doing an eviction notice, hasn't paid the bills. Let's find out what it was. I asked him, "Are you expecting someone?" He said no. So I said, then let's ignore that. But I have to admit, I was more than bothered by the intrusion and was curious about who would bang on a professional's door. We'll argue the word professional, like that in the middle of the day. It was like there was a fire in the hallway and we were being warned to get out. I felt disturbed and a tinge of fear, and I hoped the knocker would go away if I did not respond. Just pause there for 1 second. Who in their right mind would not be like, let's get up and answer the door? Okay, so I was in my therapist's office and there was a knock on the door, which is obviously very weird, very odd, this kind of a thing. And he was very embarrassed and startled, but he got up because my first thing was like, is the building on fire? Like that was my thought. You know what I mean? And it turns out it was another one of his patients who they got mixed up with their stuff. They thought they had an appointment, yada, yada, yada. It was fine, right? But nonetheless, this right here, now I'm sure we're going to see, it keeps going, we're going to get to the next page, but hearing her initial thoughts of, I'll just ignore it. How could, what if, there's so many things that could be going on. It's almost like she knows there's drama and doesn't want someone to see it. We continued to discuss my client's concerns when 2 minutes later, the same 3 bangs came to the door. Bang, bang, bang. I jumped in the chair this time and so did he. We stared at each other and he said, "I think you better get that." I really did not want to. I remember worrying, this could be a disgruntled client with a weapon. It's a valid worry, Jodi, okay? This is what I'm talking about. If you're living right, and I mean, granted, I'm not trying to say that there could not be a situation in a normal therapist situation. I get that. But she knows she's done dirty. If your thought is someone's banging on the door, I don't want to get it because it could be a disgruntled client with a weapon. My first thought was the building's on fire. That's the difference. That's the difference. She gives herself away in this, that she knows she's scummy. Okay, see, these are the little nuggets in this stuff that I love. You know what I mean? Like, we get through all the bad stuff to get to these little nuggets. It's like, see, I told you so. Anyways, let's keep going. Okay, this could be a disgruntled client with a weapon. Only 3 weeks ago, the Florida school shooting had happened, which was fresh in my mind. I thought about all the different possibilities that could be on the other side of the door, and I knew I did not want to find out who or what it was. I walked over to the door and braced myself. I thought, okay, if I am met with a weapon of some sort, I am ready to meet my maker. If I open this door and get shot, I hope I die quickly, so I am not stuck in a broken body. Or if this is a stalker, then I will call the police. I was fully intending to meet something violent on the other end, since the banging of the door was so aggressive. I opened the door only a crack and stuck just my nose out to protect anonymity of my client. I saw no one. Then a young man in his 20s suddenly slid into view and said, "Are you Jodi?" I replied, "Yes." He then left my line of sight, picked something up, brought it over to the door, and held it up. He said, "These are for you." He was holding a large bouquet of assorted roses. As I saw the roses and heard his greeting, everything I felt in me switched instantly. Seconds before, I perceived fear, violence, injury, and harm, and all at once it changed into feelings of love, gratitude, warmth, and compassion and joy. You know she ripped him up. You know she did. Not this flowers, but the guy. I carefully maneuvered the basket to the doorway to shield my client's identity. She's so big on saying that in this book, but she puts all their personal business in the same damn book. Okay? I'm just like, make it make sense, y'all. Help me. And turned around to show him the flowers. His expression of concern quickly resolved once he saw the flowers. He sighed deeply and said, "Wow. Someone who wants to hurt you?" I shared similar sentiments and set the basket on the table and continued our session. At the end of the session, the man stated, "I can't believe how quickly my perceptions changed, just knowing that it was the flower guy." I agreed with him. It was definitely a teaching tool for both of us about the power of our minds. I learned again that day that I am responsible to perceive in truth and scrutinize the stories I tell myself for truth rather than distortion. Choosing to perceive in distortion enslaves you to the service of lies. Distortion provides you with a very limited or rigid view of your experiences and your interactions with other people. When you are perceiving in distortion, you aren't seeing all of the interaction or experience. When you perceive without distortion, you become aware that you can be deceived. This causes you to pay more attention, ask questions, and become curious about your environments, thoughts, feelings, motives, expectations. If you're unaware of how all these elements are interacting inside of you, you will not be able to differentiate your reality from the truth. Your reality is also called your big picture. Your big picture includes what is true for you, or your truth. Not to be confused with the truth. What may be true to you may not be true for everyone else. You need to recognize that your truth and your reality are not necessarily the truth. Again, the advice they need to take themselves. Be willing to acknowledge and accept that others may not perceive the same reality, which doesn't mean either of you are wrong. It only means you have different ways you perceive your environment and world. When you're humble, you become more willing to recognize that what you think and how you feel about an experience does not represent the whole truth of the experience. You no longer assume that your initial perception constitutes all of the information. This ability to assume that you don't have all the information enables you to check your motives, purify your agendas, and have true, genuine, meaningful, and deep connections within yourself and with others. This allows you to have empathy, the ability to feel the effects and emotions of another person's experience, reduce conflict, and truly connect with others, yourself, and God. Choosing to perceive in truth makes you free spiritually, emotionally, and physically. You can choose to be conscious, curious, and responsible by examining your perceptions, asking questions about them, and finding out if they are based in truth or not. When you choose to live in the truth, distortions will no longer be a part of your perceptions or your life. You can choose to live in distortion or in truth. It's up to you. So be wise and proactive. Choose to be responsible for your perceptions by reframing them in the truth. My God almighty, y'all. Again, perceptions and motives can lead you around unconsciously. If you are unaware, your perceptions and motives will become distorted. They will direct you to make unwise, reactionary, and erroneous decisions based on what you believe truth is. Rather than on facts, emotional honesty, personal accountability, and accurate and thoughtful perceptions of yourself and others. For example, I met someone who was drunk and having a hard time perceiving accurately. I said, "I'm sorry, that doesn't sound comfortable to be altered with alcohol." He replied, "Oh, I feel very comfortable and relaxed. I like it this way." The verbal exchange was full of differing perceptions. Who's right? I think if you were to ask either of us, we would each reply, I am. Why would someone who is altered with alcohol say they feel comfortable and relaxed and prefer a life this way? You have to look at their perceptions, and that will explain their motives and agendas. Preferring to be altered, example given, preferring to be altered by alcohol. Becoming awake and aware of what is happening inside you is the goal. When you're conscious, your perceptions and motives are coming from a clear, emotionally honest, and responsible place inside of you. And therefore, you can trust yourself. So, again, just more on that she needs to take a little bit of her own medicine. She needs to take her own advice. Hypocrisy, the whole 9 yards in here. Okay, so let's move on to chapter 9. Emotions. I get so emotional. Let's see if Jodi gets emotional. Your emotions give you information about yourself. My God, the things that hers must be telling her about herself. And your surroundings, and enable you to connect with reality. Your brain creates emotions according to how you perceive your experiences. Therefore, whenever you have a feeling, it means you just had a thought. I'm just going to keep silent. You perceive an experience as comfortable, uncomfortable, sad, happy, peaceful, frightening, threatening, etc. And your brain, because of your choice of perception, creates the corresponding emotions. The good and empowering news is that you are in charge of how you perceive and therefore how you feel. You can choose truthful thoughts and perceptions or distorted thoughts and perceptions. Feelings aren't just happening to you, your thoughts create them. Emotions are the results of how you, and it does some bullet points here, perceive, esteem, and value yourself and others, relate and or connect with self and others, interact with the physical, emotional, and spiritual world. Therefore, nobody and nothing can make you feel a particular way. Rather, you get to choose and create your emotional experience in life by engaging in truth and honest relationships, responsible behavior, and humble attitudes. Or not. This is how you keep yourself emotional, mentally, and spiritually connected. Or not. Let me share a story about emotions and how I perceived my physical, emotional, and spiritual world. God bless, we couldn't even get through the first page. Here we go, buckle up. Every winter and into the following spring, I look forward to the warm months of June through September. Those months are boating season on my favorite lake in the world, Lake Powell. Every year for the last 10 years, I have made this a family activity. Doesn't her family not talk to her? And carefree days. Eating junk food out on the boat and engaging in water activities with several friends that always tag along. It is where I can unwind and get back to the simplicity of life. This past summer was no different. This summer I vowed, as I had the past 2 summers, to get up on a wakeboard and ski. I had not been successful standing up on the board as the boat was moving for 2 summers in a row, but not because of lack of effort on my part. I had put myself into the water. Please hold while I turn the page. Put the board on my feet and given the activity every bit of physical strength I had inside of me, and I was still unsuccessful in getting up. My son is a master at wakeboarding and pops right up every time he feels the slightest resistance from the boat. He makes it look so easy and simple. I have thought many times I have similar genes, same muscle capacity, and desire to succeed. So what is my issue? It can't be much different than skiing with long skis, which I can do quite well. So what is my hang up? All of those perceptions have created a flurry of emotions inside of me, many of which have not been helpful or encouraging. I have wrestled with the boat, my style, the way my feet ride on the board, and to turn it right or left to catch the wave, changed ropes, and cried out of frustration and exhaustion, and nothing seems to work. I can just see the mental meltdown she goes through in the water right now, like a wet cat in a bathtub. I mean, as you know, that's exactly carefree family days on the boat, my butt. There ain't nothing carefree about this woman's existence. Okay, can you hear the emotions in my description? I have perceived excitement, satisfaction, sadness, fear, frustration, aggression, control, force, self-adulation, self-denigration, loss, exhaustion, hopeless, helpless, tenacity, perseverance, and hope. All these emotions were present as I got into the boat to try again. This year, I was with new people, 2 of whom vowed that they could teach me how to get up and that it really was not a big deal. I was not sure how to feel about that statement, since I had given so much effort over the last 2 years with no hint of success. But typically when I get an idea in my head, I won't stop until I can figure out how to accomplishment. And this was no different. Well, we know that. It was a late afternoon on a beautiful sunny day, and the large cove we found was calm and wakeless, perfect for skiing. I was sure I would conquer. I dove into the water and strapped the board onto my feet and cinched the straps up tight. The feeling of having a board on your feet that forces you to sit in a particular position is a bit unnerving because there's no way to bail out quickly if you need to. I could feel the emotions of that reality strike fear in me as the boat started and my friends handed me the rope in the water. I was so conscious of all the emotions that my body and mind were experiencing, how it felt to be strapped into the board, the temperature of the water, the rope as it slid through my hands, my shorts that I had on because I did not bring my suit that day. The fear that the force of water against them would drive them down to my knees as I stood up. The nervousness that whipped up inside of me as I recalled all the many times I'd failed. My emotions were being driven by negative thoughts. I can't do this. Look at all the evidence. They are wasting their time with me, and I'm just not capable for some reason. I was simultaneously choosing to think positively. This is a new experience and a new day. I feel strong. I can do this. This is about technique, not force of strength. This allowed me to calm down a bit. I positioned myself calmly in the water, with the board just bobbing a little below my face so I could see over it. The boat was humming and the rope was straight. Now was my moment. Now was the time to conquer these fears and thoughts of inadequacy. I yelled to the boat driver, "Hit it, Sammy!" She didn't say the Sammy part, but she said, "Hit it." I took a deep breath, preparing for the physical resistance of the boat and the massive rushing water that hits you like a wall. Sensations that I knew all too well. I kept my arms straight and pushed with my legs against the water, and I popped up for the first time ever. "Yay!" I yelled in my head with fervor. However, as soon as I did, I failed to lean back, and the force of the boat pulled me forward, and I face planted with the board up above my head and my body face down in the water. I would love to see that. I immediately began to panic. I was instantly reminded of my back injury 10 years earlier. I was now in a position that I'd never been in before and was struggling mightily to arch my back enough to keep my face out of water. The positioning of my feet locked into the board made it impossible to use my legs at all to sustain me, and I immediately knew I was in trouble. But mind you, they don't have a problem holding kids underwater and all that kind of stuff. Just remember this, right? And taking them to the brink of passing out. We don't mind inflicting that on others, but we sure don't want it done to us. No, we don't like that. The position of my feet locked into the board made it impossible to use my legs at all to sustain me, and I immediately knew I was in trouble. I knew that I could drown by the time they pulled the boat back around if I did not flip my board around and get it right side up. I could barely arch my back in such a way to keep my head out of water, and the waves caused by the boat were substantial. I was full of emotion. Feelings of terror and panic were overwhelming. I said to myself really firmly, "Jodi, stop. You have seconds to save your life. You need to take a deep breath. Put your head underwater so you are parallel with your feet and twist the end of the board so it's perpendicular to the water as you thrust it down as hard as you can. This momentum will flip you around and right side up." I had seconds to act because the boat invariably, please hold, at such a time we have to turn the page, would bring more waves. I had to act on my own behalf and pray that my back was strong enough to sustain me. I did exactly what I heard in my mind to do. I took a deep breath and I put my head underwater. And in one swift movement, I twisted my board and threw all my force at turning the board perpendicular to the water. I knew I had one shot at this before I was a goner. I prayed to God, more like commanded, to help me flip around, and I did exactly what heaven directed me to do. Within seconds, I was bobbing on my bum, right side up as the boat came back around to offer me another ride. I was still breathing hard and trying to calm my heart and my whole self down as I knew I was very close to death's door seconds before. I declined another opportunity to wakeboard for the day and leaned forward to uncinch the ties that previously held me captive. My friends turned the engine off and I pushed the board across the water towards the boat. I said a prayer of gratitude to God as I swam in and hopped onto the deck, allowing the emotions of grace, peace, calm, and hope to rest upon me and thanking Him for saving my life moments before. Amazingly, the need to wakeboard and what it meant about me and my perceptions took a back seat to the reality of almost drowning and being indebted to a loving creator who literally gave me another breath of life. Now pause there for a second. Like I said, number one, Again, so much of the theme of this book is like, you know what this feels like, so why would you bestow this on somebody else, especially kids? You know, that's what blows my mind. But it's that, and again, it's like, well, I know, because they're entitled and they think that they're God themselves. You know, she got on that boat and went off. Can you imagine the dramatics she went through? Oh my gosh, and then probably talking about, I saw the light, I came back with more answers, I need to write a book. I mean, I can just, it probably ripped everyone up. You caused the waves. Oh my hell, hey. Yeah, I mean, I can see this playing out. Okay, I have not shared that story until now. Please, you know, everyone that was in 10 miles listening radius heard that damn story that day. If she could have gone on the damn news and broadcast it, she would have. Mostly because I was in an emotional, physical, and spiritual haze for hours as I quietly rowed back to the dock. Okay, or she was like this. This is her on the boat. Like, she was like, I'm fine. And she just stood there like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, causing a scene, something where people are like, yeah, I think we need to go back. She's in distortion. We need to put her back on factory reset. Okay, let's keep going. Mostly because I was in an emotional, physical, and spiritual haze for hours as I quietly rowed back to the dock. I was coming back into reality of the seriousness of the events that had taken place, and I did not have the energy to explain what had just happened. It was a private, highly emotional experience between me, the water, and God. We are emotional beings. We are feeling as often as we breathe. At times we feel uncomfortable. No, at times we feel comfortable, pleasurable emotions, and at other times we experience uncomfortable and painful emotions. Some of us feel a wide range of emotions every day. Unfortunately, others make unconscious choices that restrict their emotional range through a lack of awareness and knowledge. Without ever knowing that their experience could be different, for many of us, uncomfortable emotions are difficult to manage or even to acknowledge. Many of us have been taught to cope with emotional discomfort by cutting off our emotions. Others have felt entitled to treat their emotions as their master, letting emotions control them and dictate what they will choose. Both approaches of disconnect, cutting off emotions or letting emotions control you, distort the truth about what emotions mean and what they are trying to teach us. The truth is, you're responsible to feel your emotions, both the good ones and the bad ones, to understand your thoughts that trigger the emotions, and then to honestly and responsibly manage those emotions according to the truth presented in the experience. For example, think of the two biggest, most life-altering choices you've made. Now try to imagine yourself making those same choices without feeling any emotion before or after. Chances are you wouldn't have made those same choices. Without emotion, you wouldn't be compelled to direct your life in a particular direction. You would be indifferent and totally complacent. If I hadn't had the emotion of fear and urgency when I was in the water with my face down, I would not have acted as quickly as I did to save my life. It was through feeling the emotion that I understood my reality and perceived it in truth rather than distortion. We always have to come back to use those words. I initially began to panic, distortion, which only created more confusion. I felt out of control and intense fear. It was a horrific experience. I remember thinking, I don't think I can make it before they get turned around and even notice that something is wrong. Then I said to myself, Jodi, stop. This directive and truth empowered me to make choices that saved my life. Emotions are an incredibly powerful gift. They give us empowering information about ourselves and our environment. Emotion enables and invites us to choose, to take action. Now we're at chapter 10, choice. The power of choice has also been called free will or agency. These labels connote the ability to make autonomous decisions, to judge between alternatives, to choose truth or distortion, to govern oneself, and to experience the outcomes of your choices. Because you possess the power of choice, you are always capable of choosing how you will perceive, what you will feel, how you will behave independently of what is going on outside of you. The power of choice also means that you are 100% responsible for the outcomes of every perception, thought, motive, behavior, and emotion you choose. In other words, you will become the type of being you choose to become. Choice is always present. It is as constant as breathing. Even if you choose not to decide or desire not to make a choice, that is still a choice. The one thing you cannot do is cease to choose. You cannot not choose. She's really big on these double negatives, right? Because the power of choice is at the center of who you are as a human being. Thus, when you choose in honesty and integrity, you instantly connect with who you truly are, a being of truth, comprised of choice and responsibility. While you do not get to choose the outcomes, the consequences of our choices, you do get to choose how you perceive your reality and how you manage it. You can choose to manage reality and uncomfortable experiences in anger, frustration, control, vindictiveness, resentment, and fear. Or you can hold the exact same experiences in hope, curiosity, gratitude, information, compassion, patience, and love. It is entirely and completely up to you. You can choose how you will act and how you will react. You get to choose how you will feel or not feel. You get to choose when you will respond or not respond. You get to choose what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. Remember, our enoughness doesn't vary according to our choices. Imagine how absurd it would be to say that if I choose to lie to my mother about where I am, then that means I will no longer be 5 feet 9 inches tall. Okay, I mean, my God, I cannot roll my Or if I choose to gossip about my brother, then that means I will no longer be born on June 20th, 1985. But I would say with some of the stuff that they claim to believe and whatnot, this path they went down, that this would be on brand, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, no, this is we get it. It's absurd, but I don't think she gets it. It is just as absurd to believe that if I choose to steal gum from the store, then that means my very divinity will change. Or if I choose to speak unkind words to my friend, then that means I'm no longer a child of God. All of these statements are an impossibility. Our choices do not have the ability to change what is unchangeable. We are spiritual offspring of a divine and loving God. Choice is a gift you need to use more consciously. It has incredible power for good to keep you in truth. On the other hand, that same power of choice can also be used in destructive ways to act out and distort reality. Acting out refers to any behavior a person chooses to use for the purpose of controlling, augmenting, assuaging, calming, or changing their emotional state. When distorted thoughts drive behaviors, those behaviors will be addictive and compulsive in nature. Acting out is usually associated with obviously negative behaviors like drug and alcohol abuse or pornography addiction. However, any behavior used in an addictive manner is considered acting out, including working, eating, shopping, exercising, watching TV, or playing video games. Notice that right there. Let's stop for a second. Okay, so you know how a lot of these victims of hers, like the dudes and stuff, are like, yeah, she said that like if I clocked a woman, like just checked some hot girl out or something, that it was like, oh, you're addicted, you have this, that, and the other. So you see how she's able to sit here. Anything that you do that might not fit her agenda as to how much you should be doing it is like, could be labeled something, right? Of course, we can't turn that eye on ourselves with her, right? We can't do that, but we certainly can with other people. So you get more into the mindset of how their brains operate. Okay, so perfectionism, overachieving, rigid religiosity are also forms of acting out. The rigid, not the perfectionism or overachieving, please, but for her, the rigid religiosity, I mean, come on. Acting out is all about you choosing to use a behavior, substance, feeling, or person to assuage your emotional pain and engage you in distortion. Amen. You tell them, Jodi. Okay. So the next thing is choosing to not take life personally. One of the most destructive ways to distort reality is to choose to take life personally. It is the greatest setup any of us could ever walk into. To take anything personally is to disconnect from reality. Remember, you are responsible for how you perceive your world. The way to recognize when you are choosing to take things personally or perceiving things in distortion is to realize that you are attempting to control someone or something other than your own thoughts, emotions, and actions. The distortion is the belief that someone or something has power over you in some way to make you be or cause you to feel something. Distortion tells you you have no responsibility here, and that is a lie. This is never the case. This has never been possible, nor is it possible no matter what is being hurled your direction. Someone or something controlling you has never, and will never be the truth. Thank goodness that no one and nothing has that kind of power over you. I remember here we go, my God. I remember a painful experience when I learned to choose to not take things personally. I can 100% tell you she has never learned this lesson without even talking to her in person for 1 second. Okay, years ago I was selling my home. I needed to sell it quickly and make some money. But because of the housing market, I was going to be grateful if I broke even. I felt vulnerable. For several months, no one looked at it. I was surprised because I had kept it in fantastic condition and felt like it was reasonably priced. One person showed interest, but he wanted a lower price that reflected what he felt were disadvantages to the home. I reacted poorly. Oh, can you imagine? Can you imagine? If she's willing to admit just a little bit that she reacted poorly, then you know it was like headline type stuff, right? I reacted poorly, gratefully not in front of him. What? Gratefully? Some of the way she does these words in here, y'all. I would have said thankfully, but whatever. Not in front of him. I was offended, upset, and insulted by how inconsiderate he was being by disregarding the home's amenities. It had a built-in prison. I'm just joking. It doesn't say that, but you know, probably every one of her houses did. Okay, for the home's amenities as I saw them. That's what she said. So she says, for the home's amenities as I saw them, that means the creepy stuff. My realtor was helpful because she took the personal out of it for me. She validated me and then helped me see that I was making all sorts of assumptions about his motives. I chose to realize that this negotiation wasn't personal. I was able to objectively consider the facts of the market, the home, my timeline, and my budget. I made an effort to perceive my motives as well as his, in truth, and choose not to be offended or go into distortion. I just love the way they use distortion. It's almost like if you bumped into her in the grocery store, I just see her going, like almost like static on the TV screen, like, bzz, bzz, bzz. I've gone into distortion. Somebody factory reset me. Oh my gosh. I was able to get to a place where I had compassion for both of us, and I let go of the made-up stories I was telling myself about him and what he was doing to me. It is urgently important that you practice not taking things personally. As you do, you will experience new opportunities to see yourself, your surroundings, your relationships, and other people in new and deeply profound ways. Your worldview will change if you are willing to change your mindset and internalize this truth. Life is not personal. What transpires in your life is not there to deceive, abandon, betray, destroy, or do any lasting harm to your soul. You are affected by your experiences. Yes, are many of these experiences painful and uncomfortable? Yes. The experience you engage in are happening because of three outcomes. You are vulnerable to your own choices, you are vulnerable to the outcomes from others' choices, and you are vulnerable to the outcomes from natural disasters and unexplainable tragedies, none of which are personal. It is not possible to make you react or feel a particular emotion because you have the inalienable right as a human being to choose how you feel, to choose how you will think, to choose how you will behave, to choose how you'll react or respond. Oh my God, y'all. To choose what you will believe or not believe. Everything presented to you is an opportunity to exercise free will and choice. Even though there may be experiences in your life when someone is exercising their choice to do harm or control or engage in inappropriate behavior, and its outcomes are affecting you, you still have power inside you to choose how you will respond to or hold the experiences. She thought she did something with hold too. Okay, so it has in the parentheses. She was like, I'm going to drop this one in chapter 10. I'm hitting them with the hold. She thought she did something here. Okay, I'm surprised she didn't highlight it her damn self. Oh my God, it makes me sick. The cringe, y'all. And again, I mean, I've said it a million times in these videos. It's the fact that so much of this is like, could be instantly applied to her, right? But she has no capabilities of turning this insight towards herself, right? Or willingness. Now we're in stopping and thinking. See, Roscoe even agreed. I don't know if you heard him. He just went, we're just stopping and thinking. Okay, how do you conquer the illusion of someone or something having power over you? The best and most powerful mechanism is to begin changing this illusion. To begin changing this illusion is to think before you react. Tell yourself to stop and think. Okay, so we're going to stop, think, and talk. We're going to stop and talk. Okay, here's the thing and this is what pisses me off so bad with her, is in personality types like her, is you meet these people in life, and like when they do something, so anything that she's named, these examples that she lists off, where she'll do something, have a reaction, and then come back. So this is what you need to do. What they miss is there's two components. Number one, they might be able to sit here and say, it's almost like they want to be teachers. So instead of stopping and turning all this thing that she's like trying to say, you need to do this or whatever, stop and think and all this, and thinking that inwardly and applying it to their own life, they immediately want to come and tell everybody else about it. You need to do this if you're doing this. This is I just did this. Here's the answer to it. And it's like, but you haven't mastered it yourself. Right? Your foot's still in the dog poo, and you're over here trying to tell me how to avoid it. Well, honey, I mean, it's smeared all over your feet. You know what I mean? And that's the thing that pisses me off, because you'll run into these people like this, where it's like, again, they might have like because like some of the stuff that she says, even though she makes this very complicated, but some of the basics of, here's how you could view the situation or do whatever. It's like, yeah, I get what you're trying to say, but the fact that you're, number one, making it super complicated, which is probably an ego-serving thing with someone like her and whatnot, and then also, you haven't done it yourself. Like, you haven't done it yourself. And in fact, you've projected your mistakes on everyone else around you. And I don't know if that part is like the ego thing of like, let me teach them how to do it, or if that's just how in their world they learn. But I would say they're not learning because they're so concerned with telling everybody else what to do. It's just an instant like gaslighting, weird, I can't take accountability, so let me just put it on everybody else, wrap it up in a pretty bow type thing. It blows my mind. So now we're going to go into another little bullet point. It says, stopping and thinking will give you time to ponder the facts of the experience and gather accurate, truthful information to make an informed decision. See, this is what we just talked about. Use your power of choice to choose rationally and wisely rather than impulsively according to the information you've gathered. Develop language to express and communicate your motives, perceptions, and emotions of self and others. Show compassion, empathy, and validation for self and others. So being responsible for all of you is so key in understanding yourself and others. However, when you choose to take things personally, you go into distortion. Bzz, bzz. Hey, I'm in distortion. Either self-denigration or self-adulation. You cannot see clearly what is actually happening. Instead, you will experience denial, blame, self-victimization, fear, anger, control, resentment. See, it just happened. Did y'all just see that? My body began rejecting it. It was like, oh my God, another list. We can't do it. We're passing out. Denial, blame, self-victimization, fear, anger, control, resentment, entitlement. Caring for yourself does not include allowing someone else's perceptions, feelings, choices, or behaviors to have power or authority over you. You can choose to quickly let those distortions go and get into the truth of your experience so you can stay connected. When you fully implement the power of choice, it frees you and liberates you from the lies and distorted perceptions of shame and pride. Develop your power to choose. The power to choose is the power to overcome. Choice is the most powerful gift we have been given by our Creator. Okay, y'all, so my body is rejecting the book. I have to go run errands, I have to go do stuff, so that's what we're going to do for this session right here. We should, again, let me look here. I mean, I say this, but I'm like, I'm going to guess 2 more sessions. But what I'll try and do is get 1 more where I can like sit here and do this, and once my body starts rejecting it, be able to maybe walk away for a day and then come back and just have 1 longer one for you. Anyways, I'm just thinking out loud. So that being said, again, common themes like I've said throughout the whole thing: not paying attention to her own advice, gaslighting everybody, making things so complicated. Would literally pay, if it's true, would pay good damn money to have seen that whole water ski thing, because again, the things that she's talking about, I can tell you she is ripping people to shreds in these situations. Her realtor, when the realtor called up, she went off on her and was like, he's trying to do this. And probably because that's what she would do to somebody else. She would try and lowball somebody to steal their home from them. You know what I mean? It's just her personality type. It's what they do. You can't fix them. They will never be fixed. This is just, and I don't know if it's narcissism. I don't know if it's any of those key words, but I do know it's enough, okay, to take her little quote here. And my God, okay, like from a structural thing, this is part that gets me. The list, every paragraph, it's like you can't just give like one sample of like, the rock was gray, hard. She's like, it was gray, hard, mossy, underneath another rock, next to a log, da-da-da. And you're like, oh my God, girl, you have exhausted me. And we are on page 1, right? The rock was on the ground and gray. Move on. You know what I mean? Like, but she does it with all this stuff. And then, as an example, back when I'm like, oh my God, no, not one of these. Can you imagine suffering through those online courses that she forced people into? There's no way. I would have never seen my family again if I was one of those guys, because I would literally, you see how I am now, I would be falling asleep on her Sims. She'd be up there like, what do they call it? Like, you know, reading me the for filth, and I'd be over here in this little square over here. I'd be like, I'm in distortion. I'd just be like, y'all, I'm going into distortion. I'll come back out in 15 minutes. But I need 15 minutes of distortion. I'm sorry, I can't make it. So anyways, let me know what you think about this installment. We are going to be doing Visions of Glory after this. So there's that. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section. If you have any specific things you want me to look at, whatever. Anyways, I appreciate it if you're suffering through this with me. I greatly appreciate it. Roscoe appreciates it. He has had quite the wild little day here, but he does ask that you drop some sofas off in that comment section so we'll have a place to hang out. I'll always talk about this case, Jodi, Ruby, all these crazy ones, and all the other cases we talk about. And until we do all that, we'll see y'all soon. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now, don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. Also, if you're looking for merch, be sure to check out my Teespring store. I'll put that up here. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Roscoe on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.